The galaxy was never silent. Between the stars, whispers always traveled. They were not carried by wind or air, because there was none. They were carried by transmissions, coded signals, and secret messages. Those who listened closely could hear what others tried to hide. And in recent cycles, one name had started to appear again and again in those whispers. It was a single word, short and simple, but heavy with meaning. Humans. At first, it was nothing more than a curiosity. A new species discovered, living on a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary star. The galaxy was vast, filled with billions of worlds and countless life forms. A single species from a distant spiral arm should not have mattered. But slowly, the whispers grew louder. The word humans began to spread from outposts to trade stations, from soldiers to scholars, from the lowest scavenger to the most powerful council chambers. Now, inside the Grand Council of the Galactic Union, the word hung in the air like smoke. The chamber was massive, shaped like a circle, its walls made of crystal that shimmered with the light of distant stars. Dozens of species were present, each sitting on floating platforms arranged in a ring. Some had scaled bodies, others had feathered wings, some were made of chitin shells, and a few glowed faintly, their forms of living energy. They were ancient and powerful races who had seen empires rise and fall. Yet, when the meeting began, none of them wanted to be the first to speak. It was not because they lacked words. It was because they feared what would happen if they spoke them. At last, the silence was broken. A deep voice came from the left side of the chamber. The speaker was Elder Zuroth, a historian of the Thalan species. His kind were tall and thin, with skin like polished stone and eyes that glowed faintly yellow. Zuroth had lived for 3 centuries, long enough to study wars, disasters, and the rise of civilizations. His voice echoed softly through the chamber. Humans, he said slowly. They should not be what they are. Their planet is violent. Their bodies are fragile. Their lifespan is short. By all logic, they should have remained a primitive race, bound to their home world. Yet, they rise. Again and again, they rise. A murmur spread across the chamber. Some nodded in agreement, others looked away. Counselor Avir, a scaled diplomat of the VRO tech race, hissed sharply. They are unpredictable. That is their curse. That is their danger. From the far side, a smaller voice answered. It belonged to Lyri, a scholar of the Kalari, a species of delicate insect-like beings. Her wings shimmered in faint colors as she spoke. Or perhaps it is their strength. They laugh when they should mourn. They fight when they should surrender. They hope when they should despair. And somehow, they survive. The chamber grew louder with arguments. Some described humans as reckless predators. Others called them creative dreamers. Some feared them, some admired them, and some refused to speak at all. The truth was simple. None of them fully understood humans. Long before this meeting, before humans had even reached the stars, aliens had been watching. Quiet probes hidden beyond the edges of Earth's solar system recorded their history. Files were written and stored in the archives of the Galactic Union. Some files spoke of endless wars. Others told of art, music, and stories humans created. A few records even mentioned how humans helped one another despite having nothing. The aliens tried to put humans into a category, the way they did with every other new species. Most species were easy to define. Some were warriors, some were builders, some were traders, some were philosophers. But humans refused to fit. They could be all of those things at once, and sometimes none of them. They were contradictions walking on 2 legs. A voice rose above the noise. It was from Zaktor, a commander of the Dreth Collective. His body was made of plated armor, his voice like grinding metal. He had faced humans in battle during a small border skirmish. He lifted his clawed hand and struck it against the floor for silence. I have seen them with my own eyes, Zaktor growled. We attacked their colony. Their defenses were weak, their weapons outdated. We thought it would be simple. Yet they did not run. They did not kneel. With broken bodies and burning homes, they still came at us. One of them was bleeding, his arm shattered. He should have fallen. Instead, he picked up a weapon with his other hand and kept fighting. I tell you, these creatures do not stop. They fight as if death itself is only an inconvenience. A shiver went through the chamber. Even those who hated humans did not question his story. They had all heard similar reports. Another voice followed, softer this time. Dr. Velrin of the Olari species adjusted the translator device on her neck. Her people were healers, known for compassion and calm reason. She had studied human biology for decades. Her words carried both fascination and unease. Their bodies, she said, are fragile compared to most galactic species. Their bones break, their skin tears, their hearts fail with age. And yet, they recover. They adapt. Their bodies heal faster than expected, but it is not only the body. It is the will inside them. When pain should destroy them, it does not. Their mind tells them to continue. This, I do not understand. The chamber fell silent again. Some aliens shifted uncomfortably. Others whispered to their neighbors. The truth was out, spoken clearly by both warriors and healers. Humans were different. Fragile but unbroken. Finally, the leader of the council, High Speaker Rilan, raised his staff. He belonged to the Serati, an ancient and wise race with translucent skin and glowing blue veins. His voice was calm but carried authority. We cannot ignore this any longer, he said. The galaxy whispers their name. They are new to the stars, but they carry a weight far greater than their numbers. We must decide, here and now, how we see them. Are they a danger to be contained? Or are they something else? The chamber stirred. One by one, the counselors gave their thoughts. Some argued humans were too violent and must be isolated before they spread further. Others argued humans were a gift, bringing hope where other species had grown tired. A few demanded neutrality, saying it was too soon to decide. But beneath all the arguments, there was a hidden truth none dared speak aloud. They were afraid. Outside the chamber, in the private halls of the archives, a messenger was waiting. His name was Kale, a minor functionary of the Zirak race. His body was small, his role unimportant. Yet, he held in his hands something that could change everything, a data crystal. The crystal contained the classified human reports. It was a collection of every observation, every story, every whisper. It told the truth of what aliens really said about humans, both the admiration and the fear. Kale looked down at the crystal. His 3 eyes flickered nervously. He had been given orders. Deliver this only to the High Speaker. But as he walked through the dim corridors, a thought gnawed at him. Why hide this? Why keep the truth from humans? The files described humans in ways they would never guess. They were called Deathworlders because their home planet was dangerous beyond measure. Storms, diseases, predators, and yet they thrived. They were called Dreamers because they imagined futures no one else dared to. They were called Madmen because they laughed in the face of despair. The more Kale thought, the more he realized why the council wanted this hidden. If humans ever learned what aliens truly said about them, everything would change. Back in the chamber, the arguments reached their peak. Voices clashed, echoing through the crystal walls. Some shouted, some begged, some threatened. Then the High Speaker's voice cut through. Enough. The chamber fell silent. His glowing eyes scanned the room. Slowly, he spoke. Humans are a paradox. They frighten us because they remind us of what we have lost. Once, long ago, our races were also dreamers, fighters, survivors. But we grew comfortable. We became cautious. We forgot what it means to struggle and rise again. Humans remind us. That is why we fear them. That is why we cannot stop speaking of them. The words hung in the air like a heavy shadow. At last, the High Speaker raised his staff. This council will not decide tonight. But remember this. Do not let them know what we say. Do not let them know what we fear. For if humans discover the truth, the balance of the galaxy will change forever. The chamber dissolved into silence. No one dared argue further. In the quiet of the archives, Cale held the crystal tighter. The warning echoed in his mind, never let humans know what we truly say about them. But Cale was only a messenger, and sometimes, messengers make mistakes. And somewhere, far away, on a small blue planet, humans were looking up at the stars, unaware of the whispers that surrounded their name. The galaxy had always kept records. Every empire, every council, every fleet, none of them trusted only memory. They stored their truths in data crystals, hidden archives, and secret vaults. Most records were harmless. Trade agreements, star maps, medical reports. But a few were different. They were locked away, guarded not because of their value, but because of the fear they carried. Among these forbidden files, one collection was whispered about more than any other. They were called the records of fear. The records were not written by machines or by detached observers. They were written by those who had stood face to face with humans. Soldiers, captains, doctors, and scouts, each had seen something they could not forget, and each had left a testimony behind. The council kept them hidden, never to be shared with the public. But whispers always escaped, traveling like smoke through the galaxy. The first record belonged to Commander Zaktor of the Dreth Collective. His story had already been mentioned in the council, but the true details were locked away. The file began with his voice, rough and metallic. "They did not fear us," he said. "That is what haunts me. Every other species, when they see our ships, they kneel. They know the strength of the Dreth. But the humans, no. They stood there, even when their walls were broken, even when their weapons were useless. They fought us with their hands, their teeth, their fire. They fought until the last breath." The file described a colony world, small and newly settled. The Dreth had expected it to fall in hours. Instead, the battle lasted days. Men and women with no military training built barricades from burning wreckage. Children carried water to fighters. Wounded humans, bleeding and broken, still held weapons in shaking hands. "They looked at us," Zaktor's voice trembled, "as if we were not gods, but simply obstacles. They did not beg. They did not cry. They stared with eyes that told me, 'You will have to kill every single one of us.' And in that moment, I was afraid. Afraid not of their weapons, but of what lived inside them." The second record came from a scout of the Yalith species, a thin, spider-like being who relied on stealth and speed. His name was Reli, and his words were filled with unease. "I was ordered to watch them," he said. "To study their world from shadows. Their planet is violent. Storms destroy their cities. Diseases strike their bodies. Predators hunt them in their own forests. Their oceans swallow their ships. Even their own kind kills each other in wars. No world should be so cruel. Yet they live. They laugh in the rain, they build homes in fire-scorched lands, they sail across oceans knowing they may never return. They treat danger as if it is simply life." Reli described watching a human village struck by a great storm. Houses were torn apart. Crops destroyed. Families lost everything. On his own world, such a disaster would have ended the settlement forever. But the humans did not leave. They gathered in the ruins, lit fires, and began to rebuild that same night. Some sang songs to keep their spirits alive. Others shared food even when they had almost none. Reli's voice shook as he ended his record. "I could not understand it. They should have broken. They should have given up. But they smiled, even through tears. It was not bravery. It was madness. And madness, I fear, is harder to defeat than fear itself." Another file was from Dr. Velrin, the Olari healer who had studied human biology. Her record went deeper than her testimony in the council. "I operated on one of them," her voice said quietly. "A soldier with a wound that should have killed him. His heart was failing, his body torn. By all reason, he should not have survived the night. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw something stronger than flesh. I saw a will that refused to die. She wrote how the soldier forced himself to stay awake, even in agony, because his comrades needed him. He refused to accept pain as defeat. He refused to accept death as an end. The body, Velryn whispered, was fragile, but the mind was unbreakable. I do not know how many species could survive what humans endure daily. Perhaps none. They are creatures of suffering, but they wear it like armor. Her record ended with a chilling line. What happens when such a will is given the strength of technology greater than their own? What happens when their fragile bodies no longer hold them back? The records continued, each one a fragment of fear. A soldier of the Kharal Empire wrote of a battle where humans, outnumbered 10-1, still launched a counterattack. They should have hidden, he wrote. Instead, they charged. I saw fire in their eyes. Not anger. Not hate. Something else. Something I still cannot name. A merchant described how humans on a trade station rushed to save strangers during a fire. They risked themselves for people they had never met. They shouted to one another, passing buckets of water with burned hands. They did not count their own lives. They counted only how many could be saved. A diplomat recorded his shock at how humans argued endlessly, fought among themselves, yet when faced with an outside threat, they united instantly. It is as if conflict does not weaken them. It sharpens them, like a blade drawn across stone. In the council archives, all these records were kept under the same name. The records of fear. They were not meant to glorify humans. They were not meant to insult them. They were meant to remind the galaxy why humans could not be ignored. And yet, for every record of fear, there was also a trace of admiration hidden between the lines. Soldiers feared their courage, but also respected it. Doctors feared their resilience, but also wondered at it. Merchants feared their madness, but also envied their kindness. This contradiction was what made the records so dangerous. They did not paint humans as monsters or as saints. They painted them as something else entirely, something the galaxy had no word for. One particular file stood out among the rest. It was written by Admiral Sereth of the Volari fleet, a commander known for his cold logic. He had fought in dozens of campaigns, never shaken by blood or loss. Yet his voice in the record was unsteady. We captured a human ship, he said. We expected their crew to surrender. Instead, they sabotaged their own engines, knowing it would destroy them as well as us. They chose death, not as defeat, but as victory. I cannot understand such thinking. To throw away life so easily, and yet to value it so deeply when it is another's. They are not consistent. They are not rational. That is what makes them dangerous. He paused, then spoke words that unsettled even the archivists. If they ever unite fully, if they ever turn all their madness in one direction, there will be no empire, no fleet, no council strong enough to stop them. We must not provoke them. We must not awaken them. The files ended with one final warning, left by an unknown voice. The name of the speaker was erased, perhaps by accident, perhaps by design. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of prophecy. Do not let them know. Do not let humans learn what we whisper in shadows. For if they see the fear in our eyes, they will know their true power. And the galaxy will never be the same. In the quiet archives, Kale the messenger finished reading the files. His hands shook as he closed the final record. He had thought the humans were only another young species, reckless and noisy, but nothing more. Now, he was not so sure. He looked at the crystal he carried, the same crystal meant for the High Speaker. It held the complete collection, every story, every testimony. If the humans ever saw it, if they ever read what aliens truly felt, they would understand the fear they inspired. And Kale could not decide which was more dangerous, keeping the truth hidden, or letting it be known. Far away, on a distant colony, a group of humans gathered around a fire. Their ships were old, their weapons weak, their supplies almost gone. Yet they laughed, telling stories to pass the night. One of them coughed blood into his hand, then smiled anyway. Another had lost everything but still shared food with his neighbor. They did not know the galaxy kept records of them. They did not know their name was spoken with both fear and awe. They only knew how to live and how to endure. The whispers continued to spread, carried by secret transmissions and hidden files. And the records of fear grew heavier with each passing day. The galaxy was filled with fear of humans, but fear was never the whole truth. Hidden beneath the records of fear, there were other files. They were quieter, softer, and more secret than the rest. Few spoke of them, for they were dangerous in their own way. While the council feared humans for their madness, these files revealed something stranger, something even harder to fight. They showed admiration. The archivists called them the voices of admiration. They were confessions from alien scientists, doctors, explorers, and wanderers who had seen something in humans that no logic could explain. Where others saw danger, they saw beauty. Where others saw chaos, they saw wonder. And just like fear, admiration spread like whispers through the stars. The first record came from an alien scientist named A.R. Len of the Kalari. His people were thinkers, creatures of logic who measured life in equations and patterns. A.R. Len had studied hundreds of species, always reducing them to charts and categories. But when he studied humans, his records broke into something else. They are not predictable, he said softly. They are not consistent. They create music from sorrow and laughter in pain. They tell stories even when no one listens. They make pictures on walls, though it gives them no survival advantage. Why? I do not know. But I cannot stop admiring it. He described how humans painted colors on the surface of their ships, even though paint had no purpose in space. They sang while working, as if labor itself was not enough. They needed beauty added to it. They wrote books about love, loss, and hope, and shared them with strangers. Perhaps they are mad, A.R. Len whispered. But perhaps their madness is the reason the galaxy still feels alive. The second file belonged to Captain Farah of the Lutheri, a species known for their cold professionalism. Her record spoke of a rescue mission. We had arrived too late, she said. The station was burning. Life support failing. We prepared to record the tragedy. But then, the humans appeared. A human ship had docked at the failing station. Instead of fleeing, the humans rushed inside. They carried no advanced equipment, no protective suits, only their fragile bodies and weak tools. Yet they pulled survivors out of the smoke. They dragged strangers, aliens they had never seen before, onto their ship. One human collapsed from smoke, Farah recorded, but before he fainted, he pushed a child into my arms. The child was not even his species. And when I asked him later why he risked himself, his answer was simple, because someone had to. Her voice grew quiet. I have commanded soldiers who obey orders without hesitation. But never have I seen a being who would risk everything without being ordered. They are strange. And I admire them. Another file was a personal diary of Scholar Rihin of the Vozari. His kind valued silence, logic, and distance. But his words were almost poetic when he spoke of humans. They build cities on mountains, though the climb is deadly. They sail oceans, though storms destroy their ships. They send themselves into the void of space, though death waits in every shadow. Why? Because they must. Because they cannot sit still. Their hearts demand to see what lies beyond. He described watching humans look at the stars. Their faces were filled with longing, not fear. They did not see the galaxy as a cage of dangers. They saw it as a horizon waiting to be crossed. Perhaps that is their greatest gift, Rihin wrote. Not their strength, not their madness, not even their survival. But their hunger. Their endless hunger to see, to know, to reach further than any should. It frightens me, but it also inspires me. The records of admiration were filled with such stories. A healer described humans singing to comfort the dying. A trader recalled how humans shared food even when they had little. A traveler wrote of a human child who laughed in a war zone, reminding everyone that joy could still exist. Each story was small, Yet together they painted something larger. Humans were not only feared. They were loved. One of the most powerful records came from an alien commander who once despised humans. His name was Vorin, of the Grail Dominion. The Grail had fought humans in a brutal battle. Vorin lost many soldiers to their stubborn resistance. 4 years, he cursed their name. But one day, fate changed him. "We were stranded," his record began. "Our ship destroyed, our crew starving. No one answered our distress calls. Then a human freighter arrived. The humans had no reason to help. The Grail had once tried to conquer them. But instead of revenge, the humans shared their food and gave shelter. They treated wounds, repaired systems, and risked their own supplies to save enemies. I could not understand it," Vorin admitted. "Why help those who had once spilled your blood? When I asked, they only shrugged and said, because it was right." His voice broke in the recording. "I once hated them. Now, I cannot. I owe them my life. And worse, I owe them my respect." There was also the story of a human pilot, recorded by alien witnesses. The pilot's ship had been damaged in a battle. Instead of saving himself, he turned his crippled craft toward a burning alien cruiser. He used his failing engines to push the alien vessel out of a collision path, sacrificing his own life to save hundreds of strangers. The survivors recorded his last transmission. His voice was weak but steady. "Don't thank me. Just live." The file ended there, but the words spread across the galaxy. Some whispered them with awe, others with tears. In the council, these records were never read aloud. The records of fear were tolerated because they served as a warning. But the voices of admiration were considered dangerous in a different way. If too many heard them, the balance would shift. Instead of fearing humans, some might follow them. Some might believe in them. And that possibility frightened the council more than anything. Because admiration could grow into loyalty. And loyalty could change the galaxy. In the quiet of the archives, Kale the messenger once again read through the files. His hands trembled as he scrolled through the testimonies. The records of fear had shaken him, but the voices of admiration touched him in another way. He read of humans who laughed in war, who shared food in hunger, who built beauty from nothing. He read of kindness given without reason, of sacrifices made without thought. He read of hope that never died, even in the darkest times. And for the first time, Kale felt something new, something he had never felt for another species. He felt admiration. Far away, the humans continued their lives without knowing. They argued, they fought, they stumbled, and yet they kept moving forward. They built songs from sorrow, stories from pain, and laughter from despair. They did not know that somewhere, in the grandest halls of the galaxy, their names were spoken with awe. They only looked up at the stars, wondering what lay beyond. And in the shadows, the voices of admiration grew louder, carried from one hidden file to another, like sparks waiting for fire. The archives of the Galactic Union were deep, hidden far beneath crystal towers and guarded by silence. Most beings in the galaxy believed the archives were only a library, a place of history and knowledge. But within those endless halls, locked behind codes and barriers, lay something more dangerous than any weapon. It was called the Human Report. Few knew of it. Fewer had seen it. And those who had, spoke of it only in whispers. It was the collection of everything ever recorded about humanity. Every fear, every admiration, every rumor, and every truth. It was not just records of war or kindness. It was the forbidden truth. The Human Report began with a single name, Deathworlders. Humans did not know the galaxy called them this. Their planet, Earth, was a death world, an environment harsher than most species could imagine. Storms that could destroy entire cities. Diseases that killed millions. Predators with teeth and claws. Mountains that froze travelers. Deserts that burned them alive. And yet, from this brutal cradle, humans had risen. The report described Earth in cold detail. No species should have thrived here, it said. And yet, the humans did not only survive, they dominated. For alien scholars, this truth was terrifying. Most advanced races came from gentle worlds. Worlds where danger was rare, where food was easy, where peace was possible. But humans came from fire, from ice, from hunger, from endless struggle. That made them different. That made them strong in ways no one else could understand. The report continued, they are fragile, yet they endure. They are weak, yet they rise. They are mortal, yet they dream as if they will live forever. They are contradictions, every weakness turned into strength. Kale the messenger read the words as he carried the crystal deeper into the council chambers. His 3 eyes flickered nervously. He had read fragments before, but never the full truth. Now, every page pulled him further into awe and unease. The next section of the report was titled Unpredictable. It described how humans could not be defined by a single role. Warriors one day, healers the next. Artists in the morning, fighters by night. They argued, divided, and hated one another, yet when faced with a common enemy, they united instantly. No simulation can predict their choices, the report said. They defy logic. They choose hope when reason demands despair. They choose sacrifice when safety is possible. They choose kindness even for enemies. They cannot be controlled. Kale shivered as he read the words. He remembered hearing elders whisper that humans were dangerous because they did not know their limits. Now, he understood. The report also held the forbidden testimonies of alien leaders. Voices of fear, voices of admiration, all gathered in one place. But here, they were not separated. They were woven together into one chilling truth. Humans were not simply dangerous or inspiring. They were both, at the same time. Admiral Saratha's warning was recorded, if they ever unite, nothing will stop them. Scholar Rehin's admiration was preserved, they hunger for more than survival, they hunger for meaning. Dr. Velron's voice whispered, they refuse to die when logic says they must. Captain Farah's memory was written down, they risk themselves for strangers. All of it together created a picture no one could ignore. They are the species the galaxy both fears and needs, the report concluded. The Council had ordered the report hidden because it was too dangerous. If the galaxy's citizens learned the truth, panic would spread. Some would want to destroy humans before they grew too powerful. Others would rally to their side, believing in them as saviors. Either way, war would follow. And if the humans themselves discovered what the galaxy whispered, the balance would shatter forever. Kale stopped walking. He stared down at the glowing crystal in his hands. A question burned in his mind, why hide this? Why not let humans know? The answer came quickly, as if the crystal itself whispered to him. Because the moment humans knew their true image, the moment they realized they were both feared and admired, they would change. They would no longer see themselves as small, as new, as weak. They would understand their power. And once they understood, they would no longer be contained. The report grew darker as Kale read further. It described predictions, what might happen if humanity expanded. If given freedom, they will explore every corner of the galaxy. If given allies, they will lead them into wars of justice or vengeance. If given enemies, they will fight without end. If left alone, they will not stay alone. They will seek, always seek, until there is nothing left unseen. It warned of their curiosity, their endless hunger to learn. It warned of their imagination, the ability to create weapons, tools, and ideas no other race had considered. They imagine monsters, the report said. And then they build them. They imagine peace, and sometimes, against all odds, they build that too. Kale's breath grew heavy. He realized the truth was not only dangerous for humans, it was dangerous for everyone. In another section, the report described a strange power humans carried. Not technology, not strength, but something deeper. They inspire, the report said. Even those who fear them cannot stop following their stories. Even those who hate them cannot ignore their courage. They change those around them, bending others to their will, not by force, but by presence. The report gave examples: alien soldiers who fought harder when beside humans, alien children who copied human laughter, alien leaders who adopted human words of hope. It is not their weapons we should fear, the report concluded. It is their spirit. For a weapon kills only once, but spirit spreads forever. Cale closed his eyes, clutching the crystal tighter. The weight of the truth pressed on him like a storm. He thought of the Council's warning, never let humans know. And yet, he wondered, what if they deserve to know? Far away, humans lived their ordinary lives. They did not know they were called Deathworlders. They did not know their songs were admired, their courage feared, their kindness envied. They looked at the stars and dreamed of reaching them, never guessing the galaxy already whispered their name. They believed they were small. But the forbidden truth said otherwise. Inside the council chamber, High Speaker Rilon waited. His translucent form glowed faintly as he lifted his staff. The time had come to review the human report again. He had read it many times, and each time it unsettled him more. He knew the truth, but he also knew the danger of it. When Cale entered, holding the crystal, Rilon's eyes narrowed. "You have read it," the speaker said softly. Cale froze. Only a little." Rilon sighed. "And now you understand why it is forbidden." Cale hesitated. "But, is hiding it right? Shouldn't the humans know what we think of them?" Rilon's voice grew heavy. "If they know, the galaxy burns. If they do not know, there is still a chance for peace. That is the choice we must make." His words carried no triumph, only sorrow. For he knew that hiding the truth could not last forever. The chamber lights dimmed. The council gathered once more, their voices rising in argument. Some demanded secrecy. Others whispered that the humans must one day learn. And as the debate grew louder, Cale stood in the shadows, holding the crystal close. The forbidden truth pulsed inside it, waiting. Far away, a human radio telescope caught a fragment of a strange signal, an alien whisper carried across the stars. The scientists on Earth laughed, calling it static. But one of them looked closer, frowning at the patterns. They did not know it yet, but the forbidden truth had already begun to slip free. The galaxy trembled. And in the silence between stars, a question waited to be answered. What happens when humans discover what the galaxy truly says about them? The galaxy had always whispered about humans. Some whispered in fear, some in admiration, some in quiet awe. But humans themselves had never heard those whispers. Until now. It began quietly. In the vast reaches of space, beyond the systems controlled by the Galactic Union, a transmission slipped through. It was not meant for humans. It was a message carried on encrypted frequencies, intended only for the Council and the archives. But somehow, it reached Earth. A team of human scientists, scanning distant signals for anomalies, noticed it. At first, they thought it was random noise, stars, cosmic interference, static. But when they decoded a small section, the words sent a shiver through their minds. Deathworlders. Fragile. Unpredictable. Dangerous. Admirable. Impossible to understand. The humans stared at the screen. One of them whispered, This is about us?" It was true. The galaxy had spoken. For centuries, every empire, every species, every council chamber had quietly recorded their thoughts about humanity. And now, humans knew. The revelation did not cause panic. Not immediately. Instead, it sparked something deeper. Curiosity, amazement, and slowly, determination. Commander Elias, a human leader overseeing a deep space research vessel, gathered his crew. "We are being watched," he said plainly. "They fear us. They admire us. And they do not understand us. The question is, do we understand ourselves?" No one spoke for a moment. Then Lieutenant Mara, his second-in-command, said, "Maybe we never needed to. Maybe now we do." The words hung in the room like fire. The humans began to study the transmission. They discovered references to their history, their wars, their art, their kindness. Every observation, every report, every voice of fear and admiration, it had been collected and recorded by species across the galaxy. They read about their resilience in the harshest environments. They read about their courage in battle and their willingness to sacrifice for strangers. They read about how they inspired those who feared them and moved those who admired them. A strange emotion washed over them. Pride. But it was different from the pride of victory or conquest. This was pride born from understanding. The galaxy, in all its power and wisdom, had noticed humans. It feared them and respected them in ways humans had never imagined. Across Earth, humans began to change subtly. They did not suddenly become rulers of space or masters of alien technology. But their actions grew bolder, their decisions braver, their ambitions larger. On a small colony world, a team of engineers rebuilt a failing settlement that had been abandoned for years. They used nothing but old technology, crude materials, and sheer ingenuity. They laughed at obstacles, celebrated every small success, and shared every failure openly. When a storm threatened their progress, they worked through the night, refusing to surrender. "They called us fragile," one engineer said aloud. "But we are still standing." In space, a human fleet traveled to a distant star system. Their mission was simple: exploration. Yet everywhere they went, humans left signs of life, kindness, and hope. They saved stranded alien ships, repaired failing stations, and shared resources freely. Every act, however small, was a statement. They were no longer the species the galaxy could ignore. Captain Lin, piloting one of the ships, recorded her log. "They see us as fragile. They see us as dangerous. And maybe we are both. But we will be more. Not because we seek power, but because we cannot stop striving. That is what makes us human." Meanwhile, Kale, the messenger who had carried the forbidden reports years ago, watched from the shadows of the council chambers. He had feared what would happen if humans ever learned the truth. And now, he had seen it. But humans did not panic. They did not retaliate. They did not demand revenge for being studied, judged, or feared. Instead, they smiled, quietly, and they whispered among themselves, "If this is what they see, then we will show them even more." Kale realized the danger of that simple statement. Not because humans sought destruction, but because they had understood their own power, and nothing in the galaxy could contain it once they did. The High Speaker, Rilon, convened the council again. They had discovered the transmission had reached humans. Panic and anger filled the chamber. "They know," one counselor shouted. "This changes everything." Another whispered, trembling, "If they know, what will they do? They are fragile, yes, but their minds are unstoppable." Rilon raised his staff. His eyes glowed faintly blue. "We have always feared them," he said. "We have admired them. And now, we have awakened them. The galaxy can no longer ignore the consequences." Back on Earth, humans gathered at the sites where the first transmission had been received. Scientists, engineers, and leaders shared the news. Messages from space were discussed openly. The data was overwhelming, yet humans accepted it calmly. "It is not a warning," Commander Elias said. "It is recognition. And recognition is power. If we understand ourselves, if we see what the galaxy sees, we can choose what kind of future we want." The crew nodded, silently agreeing. They had always known humanity was special in small ways. Now, they knew it in a larger, cosmic sense. Humans began to act differently in subtle, powerful ways. In one distant system, they mediated a conflict between two alien factions, not as soldiers, not as rulers, but as humans. They spoke plainly, with empathy and logic. They shared stories of cooperation and resilience from Earth. Slowly, the warring factions paused, considering not their own victories, but the larger picture. On another planet, humans helped rebuild a city destroyed by natural disasters. They shared knowledge, technology, and hope. And everywhere, humans whispered the same simple message: We are fragile, yes, but we endure. We are small, yes, but we reach further. We are human, and that is enough. Kale observed all this in silence. He understood now that the council had underestimated humanity. Fear and admiration were not just emotions, they were indicators of potential. The galaxy's whispers had told humans nothing new about themselves. Humans had always known who they were. The difference was that now, they knew the galaxy knew too. And when humans knew that, they would act, not recklessly, not violently, but inevitably. In the council, debate raged. Some suggested preemptive strikes, others wanted containment. R'Elan listened, unmoving. He knew such measures would fail. Humanity was not a species that could be controlled. They were not motivated by fear, greed, or obedience. They were motivated by curiosity, by hope, by the drive to survive and thrive against all odds. They will not stop, R'Elan said softly. They will not be contained. And that is what makes them remarkable. Far across the galaxy, humans continued to grow in influence, quietly, patiently. They explored star systems, aided alien civilizations, and showed a strength of spirit that no empire had predicted. The whispers in the stars changed. They were no longer just fear or admiration. They were recognition. The galaxy had finally acknowledged humanity, not as a young, weak species, but as something unique, unpredictable, and powerful. And humans smiled. They did not boast. They did not threaten. They only continued forward, knowing that the galaxy had seen them, and now they had seen themselves. The final transmission from Earth echoed across the cosmos. It was not a challenge, not a declaration, not a war cry. It was simple, human, and honest. We know who we are. And we will show you who we can be. The message spread quickly, reaching systems that had long whispered about humans. Alien leaders, soldiers, and scholars paused. The words carried a weight that no council meeting, no secret report, no archive could contain. The galaxy listened. And for the first time, it waited in awe. Kale watched from afar, his hands trembling. He understood that the council's warnings, the forbidden truths, the fears and admiration, all of it had prepared humanity for this moment. And now, the humans had taken it into their own hands. The galaxy had seen humans, and humans had finally seen the galaxy. And in that quiet, powerful moment, the balance of the stars shifted forever.